Since about the middle of August, I kind of feel like I've been working with a specter hanging over my head. And that specter is the onset of winter here in Maine. It just gets so cold that it becomes hard to accomplish anything much outside. So I've been pushing really hard since mid-August to try to get as much of that work done as I can, so that I can move my remaining work inside to be able to continue making progress. And I feel like I'm pretty close. In this video, I'm going to finish up what I think are the last few things to get me ready here for winter. I hope you'll pardon the unusual angle. I've got something under the building to show you. If you look here, you can see everything in silver is a place in my deck that has insulation. On the other side of that silver is 6 inches of insulation, which helps to keep the deck warm, my place warm. But I needed a place to be able to run stuff outside the building easily, like for example, the drainage pipe that you see here. So I left this little rectangle uninsulated. The plywood that you see is actually the subfloor of the deck. So the advantage here is that I can run stuff outside the building, any kind of utilities, like the drain pipe. Eventually I'll bring my propane line out from here and the electrical line for solar. And that's nice to have a nice, easy place to be able to bring that out. But the disadvantage is, of course, there's no insulation here, and which means these pipes are left exposed to the cold, and any cold air can come up through here and right through this thin plywood and get inside my building and make it colder. So the goal is to build some kind of an insulation box around this utility box to be able to protect everything from getting cold and from cold air being able to come in. Finally, one confounding factor is an unfortunate design flaw, which is if you see the box here is built too close to one of my support rocks. That's one of the giant support rocks that holds the deck up, and this side is just, the rock is right in the way from being able to build a box straight down. So I kind of have to do a little bit of thinking and figure out how I'm going to build that box around the utility box to be able to insulate it, even though that stone is in the way. Jesus, it's cold out there. I think it's like 36 degrees. I can't feel my hands after a while. I gotta come back in here and warm up by the fire. The insulation box is done. I definitely wouldn't say it's my finest work, But as far as project quality goes, there's good and good enough. And this just needs to be good enough to keep the cold from coming in. Now that brings me to my last project before it gets really cold. I have a small propane heater and a small propane stove that I've been using. And with that is a propane tank. Now I've been keeping the tank inside, which is definitely a safety no-no. So I'm going to build a small shelter that'll hold 2 propane tanks, and then I'll take the supply hose for that and run it through the insulation box that I just finished. I've been out here working on this land a little over 6 months now. But I have to say, it doesn't feel like 6 months. If I had to put a time span on it, it really feels more like 6 years. It feels like another lifetime ago that I was living in a comfy condo in Portland, Oregon. And I wonder why almost my entire life I've had this very different experience of time than it seems like most people talk about. It seems very common for people to say how fast time rushes by, years go by in the blink of an eye, but it has never been that way for me. I'll look back a few weeks or a few months and it always just feels like an order of magnitude bigger, years, another lifetime. It's so freaky to me to think about how long ago it was that I was, say, in high school. I've been 3 or 4 completely different people, at least, since then. I mean, shit, I'm a completely different person now, it feels like, in just 6 months. And I suspect that the reason that time moves so slow for me, subjectively, is because of 2 things. One is that my experiences seem to lurch pretty strongly from one extreme to another. From a comfy condo in a city with all the modern conveniences to the middle of the woods with 0 modern conveniences and no idea how to get the job done. So that's one thing. And the other is just the density of experiences. I oftentimes will take on stuff that I don't have much degree of mastery in and just try to figure it out, and it just leads to sometimes almost daily overwhelm, and one thing after another that I'm trying to load into my brain and into my emotional space. It's pretty high intensity sometimes, and I suspect that's one of the reasons that weeks can feel like months and months can feel like years, because I'm just packing so damn much into the time. With the completion of the insulation box and the propane shelter projects, I feel like I've finally got all the critical tasks done to prepare me for the upcoming winter here in Maine. And that's a huge sense of relief. It really feels like just about every day for the past 2 to 2.5 months, I've felt the pressure to get as much done as possible before the winter comes. I really couldn't keep up that pace forever. It was pretty physically demanding and emotionally stressful. I'm looking forward to slowing down to a more sustainable pace. Now, that doesn't mean that everything's done. There's still plenty to do outside, but none of it has to be done now. And there's still plenty to do inside, too. I have to get a working indoor shower, my kitchen countertop and sink need to be refactored, and I really don't have much storage space in here either yet. I'll be tackling all those things in the upcoming videos.